It made national headlines 8 years ago. An Albuquerque father and daughter disappeared in a national park.
It was a sunny morning on June 20th, 2002, when 20-year-old Crystal Tuggle and her 46-year-old father James Chatman took a 2-hour drive to visit Mount Taylor near Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was the latest in a series of father-daughter excursions that the pair took every year to celebrate Father's Day. The year before, they had gone whitewater rafting together, and the duo was eager to keep the tradition alive. But when they arrived at Mount Taylor, Jim and Crystal discovered that mountain access had been closed to the public due to a recent wildfire. Determined to still have their traditional outdoor experience together, they decided to head towards the nearby El Malpais National Monument instead. Sadly, this would be the last father-daughter adventure that they would ever take together. El Malpais, aka the Badlands, was named by early Spanish explorers as they were forced to travel over volcanic rock and one of the most complete lava flow systems in the United States. It's easy to see why James and Crystal were drawn to the national monument. The harsh yet starkly beautiful landscape preserves many geological wonders, making it one of the nation's most comprehensive showcases of volcanic activity. And as the sun sets on warm summer evenings, a spectacle unfolds as thousands of bats wake up from their naps and emerge from their caves, filling the sky. Some of the monument was even accessible by car, but Jim and Crystal decided to park and get out for a hike for a short while on foot. But as the midday sun scorched overhead, the duo would soon discover how unforgiving El Malpais could be. As the hours ticked by and day fell into night, a sense of unease began to grow in the pit of Rebecca Tuggle's stomach. Crystal and Jim had always made it a point to check in if they were running late, especially when out in more remote locations. But as the hour closed in on midnight, Rebecca could no longer ignore her worry. She made the heart-wrenching decision to call the local authorities, as well as the National Guard. A local ranger was dispatched to investigate. There are separate parking lots scattered around the National Monument, so it took a while to find Jim and Crystal's car, but eventually, their car was spotted at the Big Tubes Trailhead parking lot. There was no sign of James or Crystal. Search and rescue teams were deployed to begin searching the 160 square mile expanse of El Malpais. Crystal and Jim's family members were hopeful when over 200 extra volunteers showed up to aid in the search, but traversing the rugged terrain of the monument is no easy feat. And after a few hours of searching, volunteers were exhausted, some even having to change out their shoes that had been melted by the volcanic rock beneath their feet. The search and rescue teams initially concentrated on the area within just a few miles of the parking lot where Jim and Crystal's car was found, but they turned up nothing. And as the days passed, urgency grew, and the search and rescue team was scaled up. Volunteers had mostly exhausted themselves, so authorities began to utilize search dogs, all-terrain vehicles, helicopters, and eventually cadaver dogs to aid in the search. James and Crystal were never found, and eventually the search and rescue teams pulled their resources out of the area. So what really happened to Jim and Crystal? That question haunted their family members for over 8 more years, as they held out hope that receiving no word of their bodies being found meant that maybe, against all odds, they were still out there somewhere. But on September 21st, 2010, a team of scientists stumbled upon human remains in one of the lava tube caves at El Malpais while investigating a rare fungus that was affecting the bats. The remains had tattered bits of clothing still attached, and a credit card with the name of James Chatman was found beneath the bodies. The scientists reported the bodies, and local authorities quickly retrieved them and sent them to be identified. Dental examinations confirmed that the human remains were the bodies of Jim Chatman and Crystal Tuggle. The remains were decayed in such a way that the cause of death proved to be inconclusive. However, there seemed to be no evidence of foul play. Investigators at this point were finally able to put some pieces together to figure out a timeline of Jim and Crystal's last day alive. Crystal and James had arrived at the El Malpais National Monument around 1 p.m. Witnesses in the area claimed to have spotted them at the ranger station around that time, and their signatures were also recorded in the guest book. James simply signed as Jim, and Crystal left 2 short messages: "God bless everyone," and "clean rooms." They looked around a bit before heading over to the Big Tubes hiking trail, where their car would later be found. They decided to travel light. Crystal left her purse in the car, which contained her cell phone, keys, credit cards, and other personal belongings. Investigators believe that Jim took his phone with him, but the phone was never recovered. There was a 6-pack of water bottles in the back of the car, but they decided to take only 1 bottle to share between the 2 of them. At the beginning of the trail, the pair encountered an archaeological team who later noted that the two seemed ill-prepared for the trail ahead. The rugged volcanic rock occasionally got so hot it could melt your shoes, so boots were often recommended for hiking areas of El Malpais. Crystal and Jim had sneakers on and already seemed to be having trouble. They told the group of archaeologists that they planned to just go around half a mile, using the cairns to guide them. Cairns are small piles of rocks, which trail guides had stacked along this particular trail to try to guide the way around. But what Crystal and Jim failed to realize was that the piles of rocks easily blended in with the rest of the dark landscape, and it was easy to get turned around. Eventually, they went their separate ways. As they watched the pair move down the trail, the archaeological team had no idea that they would be the last people to see Crystal and Jim alive. The afternoon temperatures that day reached over 95 degrees. The scorching black rock beneath their feet also absorbed heat, so the temperature would have felt even higher in the area that they were in. The pair accidentally wandered away from the trail that they were supposed to be following, and from there, investigators can only theorize what happened next. According to their family, Crystal had bad knees, and James was dealing with heart-related health issues. Perhaps one of them fell or overheated, causing the other one to choose between trying to find help and staying put with their loved one. Or maybe they attempted to find shelter to wait to be rescued, only to run out of water as they passed out from the heat and dehydration. Whatever the case, the two clearly became disoriented and lost their way along the trail. Their remains were found side by side 5 miles away from the area they were expected to be in. Jim and Crystal had stayed together until the very end. El Malpais is a challenging area for even the most seasoned hikers. Exploring the area requires adequate planning supplies and navigational skills. Unfortunately, some people venture into the monument ill-prepared for the harsh conditions they are about to face. Proper footwear, navigational tools, and decent water supply will lessen hikers' chances of becoming lost or encountering difficulties while exploring. However, visitors should still use caution even with proper gear, because the area's magnetic field can hinder things like cell phones and compasses. The officials of El Malpais want to remind visitors to make sure to adequately prepare for their hike before attempting any of the monument trails. They recommend bringing at least one other hiker with you. The majority of the people who had gone missing in the past few decades were solo hikers, so it's best to hike in groups of 2 or more in case one of you needs help. You should also dress appropriately, meaning proper boots for the rugged terrain and light, breathable clothes for the heat. And most importantly, it is recommended to know your limits. You should only be attempting trails that are easy enough for the least experienced member of your group. Most people who go missing at El Malpais are eventually found, but many families still have not recovered the remains of their loved ones who got lost amongst the caves, due to the area being so difficult to search. Though the beauty of places like El Malpais may beckon many, the hidden perils they conceal should not be underestimated. Always be prepared, always be cautious, and never take nature for granted.